All right, so today we are diving into something pretty epic.
Oh, yeah.
Vangelis's Mythodea.
Okay.
You've sent over a ton of articles
Well,
and
yeah.
forum posts all about it, and want to know what makes it so special,
Okay.
especially its connection to NASA.
Right.
It's not every day that a piece of music gets chosen to accompany a mission to Mars.
Absolutely not.
Right.
And what's fascinating here is that Mythodea seems to invite those big cosmic questions even before you bring NASA into the picture.
Wait.
But let's back up for a second.
Okay.
We're talking about a choral symphony,
Mm-hmm.
first composed in 1993,
Okay.
then reworked for these massive concerts at the Temple of Zeus in Athens in 2001.
Whoa.
I mean, talk about
It's a-
setting the stage.
Yeah, that right there already has my attention.
Yeah.
And I love a good concert experience, so those fan accounts you dug up,
Mm-hmm.
those are pure gold.
Yeah.
Samuel Gomez, for one, doesn't hold back.
Right.
He calls the opening cosmic and intriguing, then talks about the choir and sopranos taking over, even mentioning weird space noises.
Really?
I'm already hooked.
And the descriptions of the venue itself really add to the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Gomez talks about how those massive temple columns seem like they were part of the stage, along with the huge screen behind the orchestra where they projected these incredible images.
Whoa.
Apparently, the colors even changed with the mood of the music.
Wait, it gets even cooler.
Oh, yeah.
John Van Houtert, in his account, mentions that during the performance, Mars itself was shining brightly in the sky above the temple.
Wow.
It's like the universe was putting on a show along with Vangelis.
It really makes you think about how that setting, that specific place and time must have influenced the way people experienced the music.
Right.
Did it feel different for the Athenians who were literally surrounded by the mythology Vangelis was drawing on? I mean, he composed this piece years before, but chose the Temple of Zeus for its world premiere.
Right.
There's something very deliberate about that.
You've just hit on something that's been bugging me about those reviews.
Right.
Both Gomez and Van Houtert mentioned the audience being kind of cold during that first performance.
Really?
Maybe it was just the Athenian high society crowd, but could it also be that this music demands something different from the listener? Like it's not just background music.
Right.
It's an experience you have to lean into.
That's a really interesting point.
Yeah.
And it reflects what we see in the critical responses. Some found Mythodea too long or difficult,
Oh, wow.
while others call it a masterpiece.
Okay.
It's almost like there's no middle ground with this music.
All right.
You either connect with it deeply or it leaves you cold, maybe even a bit confused.
Which brings us back to the question of what Vangelis was even going for here.
Right.
I mean, was there a deeper meaning behind Mythodea, or is he purely trying to evoke a feeling and atmosphere?
I think that's where those pseudo-lyrics you mentioned in your notes become really key. Apparently, Vangelis was very intentional about choosing words for their sound, not their actual meaning.
Oh.
It's like he's creating an abstract painting, but with sound instead of visuals.
Hold on, back up a bit.
Okay.
Pseudo-lyrics.
Yeah.
So he's using words,
Mhm.
but they don't actually mean anything.
Right.
That just makes the whole NASA connection even more bizarre.
Yeah.
Why would they choose music with gibberish lyrics to represent humanity to another planet?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's precisely what makes this whole deep dive so intriguing.
Right.
But before we get ahead of ourselves and lost in space,
Okay.
let's dig into these pseudo-lyrics a bit more.
All right.
What's so fascinating is that this deliberate ambiguity seems to have fueled all sorts of interpretations, even some pretty out-there theories.
Oh, you mean like the one claiming the lyrics are actually a plea to Zeus?
Yeah.
Or the others that say they're just total gibberish?
Mhm.
I have to admit I was scratching my head a bit reading those forum posts.
It's almost like Vangelis is inviting us to project our own interpretations onto the music. He's giving us the sounds, the emotions, the grand setting, but he's leaving the meaning open to the listener.
Okay, so that explains why some people hear messages from the gods while others just hear interesting sounds.
Right.
But hold on, if the lyrics aren't the key, then what about the music itself?
Okay.
What was it about Mythodea that spoke to NASA so powerfully?
Well, if you look at what NASA personnel said in those documentaries you sent, they talk about the music feeling primordial, like it's speaking from a place beyond time, beyond human experience.
Wow.
They felt a powerful connection to it, even if they couldn't quite explain why.
Primordial. That's
Yeah.
an interesting word choice.
Yeah.
It makes me think of the vastness of space, the beginning of the universe, maybe even a sense of the unknown.
Right.
Do you think that's what NASA was picking up on?
It's definitely possible.
Okay.
And that sense of the primordial could come from a lot of different elements in the music. Remember those weird space noises that Gomez mentioned?
Yeah.
We need to dig into exactly what instruments and techniques Vangelis used to create those sounds, because they might be key to understanding what NASA felt.
All right, so we've got these sort of lyrics that are open to interpretation, a primordial sound that seems to resonate with the vastness of space.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole visual spectacle of the performance at the Temple of Zeus.
Right.
It's like Vangelis was creating a multi-sensory experience, not just a concert.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
it's that combination of factors along with the mystery surrounding it all that I think contributes to that epic quality you were asking about.
Okay.
But before we go any further, I want to circle back to something you said earlier about the audience's reaction. You seem to connect with those descriptions of feeling overwhelmed, maybe even a bit lost in the experience.
You know, I think you're right. I'm starting to realize that this isn't just a piece of music you passively listen to. It's something that demands your full attention. Your willingness to be swept away by the sound and the imagery. It's almost like a ritual, a journey into the unknown.
Interesting.
And maybe that's what makes Mythodea so powerful, but also so challenging for some listeners.
Right.
It's not just entertainment, it's an experience.
Absolutely. And to really understand that experience, we need to dive into the details of those 2001 concerts.
Okay.
What specific moments stood out to those fans?
Right.
How did they describe the music, the visuals, the overall atmosphere? That's where those fan accounts become invaluable.
Okay. I'm ready to hear more.
Yeah.
Let's get back to those concert descriptions and unpack what made those performances so memorable.
Okay.
We need to understand what those people in the audience experienced before we can tackle the whole NASA connection, right?
Exactly. So let's transport ourselves back to that warm Athenian night in 2001 with Mars shining overhead and see what unfolds.
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. Let's paint the scene. John Van Houtert, in his fan account, talks about this really interesting mix of people at the Temple of Zeus.
Oh, yeah.
You had diehard Vangelis fans who traveled from all over the world to be there alongside this more, well, let's just say, high society Athenian crowd.
Okay.
It's like two different worlds colliding.
He even mentions the fashion differences, right?
Yeah.
Like casual fans versus locals dressed to the nines for the occasion.
Right.
It makes you wonder if they were even hearing the same music.
Right.
Did the Vangelis devotees pick up on things the casual listeners missed?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it gets at something we touched on earlier.
Okay.
The idea that Mythodea might demand a certain level of engagement from the listener.
Right.
Maybe those who are already familiar with Vangelis's work, his style, those unique soundscapes.
Right.
Maybe they were primed to go on that journey with him in a way that others weren't.
Okay, so picture this. Van Houtert describes Vangelis at this massive circular desk in the middle of the orchestra, surrounded by harps. Behind him, there's a huge choir and a whole percussion section.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, talk about sensory overload.
Yeah.
It's no wonder some people felt a bit overwhelmed.
It's like he was creating a sonic world, a whole universe of sound.
Right.
And that might explain why Samuel Gomez was so adamant about needing to hear the music again in a more intimate setting.
Right.
Remember how he said he was practically yearning for the CD after that first concert?
Yeah.
He felt like it was music that needed to be absorbed, not just passively listened to.
It's interesting because that first performance sounds incredibly organized, tightly controlled.
Right.
But then the second one, from what I'm reading, was a lot more relaxed.
Oh.
Almost like Vangelis loosened up a bit, allowed himself to experiment more.
Exactly. It's like he was testing the boundaries, seeing how far he could push the music and himself in that moment.
Yeah.
And there's this one detail that I just love.
Okay.
In the middle of the second performance, he starts playing waltzes,
What?
including the Blue Danube. It's almost like a wink to the audience, a reminder that even amidst this grand cosmic journey, there's still room for beauty and joy.
That's so Vangelis, right?
Yes.
Blending the epic with the unexpected.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got these contrasting performances,
Yeah.
the mystery of the pseudo-lyrics. But what about the music itself?
Okay.
What makes it so unique, so Vangelis?
Well, one thing that really stands out is his use of contrasting musical styles.
Okay.
Remember those weird space noises we talked about?
Yeah.
Those are created by blending electronic instruments and synthesizers with more traditional orchestral sounds.
Oh, wow.
And then you have those soaring melodies that are almost operatic in nature.
Okay.
Like he's pulling from all these different sources and creating something totally new and different.
And it's that blend, that juxtaposition
Yeah.
that seems to create that primordial feeling
Right.
that NASA was so drawn to.
All right.
It's not just spacey, it's ancient and modern at the same time.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the reasons why Mythodea resonates so deeply with so many people. It taps into something universal, something that connects us to both the past and the future, to both the earthly and the cosmic. It's a reminder that we're part of something much bigger than ourselves.
Okay, I have to ask, what about those theories surrounding the pseudo-lyrics?
Oh, okay.
Do you think there's any truth to the idea that they're a message to the gods or a plea to Zeus or even some kind of alien communication?
Honestly, I think those theories are a testament to the power of Vangelis' music to spark the imagination.
Okay.
He's given us this incredibly evocative sound world, this blend of familiar and unfamiliar.
Right.
And our minds naturally try to make sense of it to find meaning in it.
So you're saying it's more about what the listener brings to the music than any specific message Vangelis was trying to convey.
Exactly.
Wow.
He's providing the canvas, but we're the ones who paint the picture.
What's-
And that's what makes Mythodea so compelling. It's an active listening experience, a journey of discovery.
Speaking of discovery, let's talk about that NASA connection again.
Yeah.
Why would they choose this music with its ambiguous lyrics and blend of styles to accompany a mission to Mars?
Well, remember those quotes from NASA personnel where they talk about the music feeling primordial, like
Yeah.
it speaks from another place?
Right.
I think they were drawn to that sense of vastness, of mystery, that feeling of connecting to something larger than ourselves.
Right.
And Mythodea delivers that in spades.
Do you think it's possible they were also drawn to the fact that the music doesn't fit neatly into any one category? I mean, it's not strictly classical, it's not purely electronic,
Right.
it's not even entirely music in the traditional sense.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Maybe they saw that genre-bending quality as reflective of the mission itself.
Okay.
Exploring Mars is all about pushing boundaries, venturing into the unknown.
Right.
And Mythodea, with its unique blend of sounds and styles, does the same thing on a musical level.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's like the music itself embodies the spirit of exploration.
Right?
But I'm still stuck on those pseudo-lyrics. If Vangelis wasn't trying to convey a specific message, then why use words at all? Why not just stick with instrumental music?
That's a question that's fascinated me for years.
Yeah.
And I think the answer lies in understanding how Vangelis viewed the role of language in music.
Okay.
He once said that music is the only real international language.
Wow.
And by using pseudo-lyrics, he removes the barriers of specific languages and cultures, allowing the music to speak directly to our emotions and our subconscious minds.
It's like he's created a sonic bridge between humanity and the cosmos, a language that transcends words.
Precisely.
Wow.
And that bridge is built on those weird space noises, those soaring melodies, those rhythmic pulses that seem to echo the heartbeat of the universe.
Okay.
It's a language that speaks to something deep within us, something that resonates with our sense of wonder and our desire to explore the unknown.
Okay, so we've talked about the setting, the music, the mystery, but what about the visuals?
Okay.
Remember Van Houtert mentioned those images projected on the screen behind the orchestra.
Yes, those visuals were absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a concert, it was a multimedia spectacle.
He mentions images of Greek gods, space scenes, and even symbols representing the concept of alpha to omega.
Right.
It's like Vangelis was weaving together mythology, science, and spirituality into a single tapestry.
Exactly.
Wow. I can only imagine what it must have been like to experience that live.
Yeah.
The music, the visuals, the setting. It must have felt like being transported to another world.
It's no wonder those fans felt like they'd witnessed something truly extraordinary.
Right?
And then there's that moment where Mars itself appears in the sky above the temple.
Whoa.
Talk about perfect timing.
That's like the universe itself was conspiring to make this performance unforgettable.
Yeah.
And it reinforces that connection between the earthly and the cosmic that seems to run through so much of Vangelis's work.
Exactly. He wasn't just interested in exploring the outer reaches of space.
Right.
He was also fascinated by the inner space of human consciousness.
Okay.
And Mythodea is in many ways a journey into both.
It's a journey that invites us to question, to explore, to connect with something larger than ourselves.
Right.
And it's a journey that's best experienced firsthand. So as you listen to Mythodea, I encourage you to keep that sense of wonder in mind. Let the music transport you. Let the visuals ignite your imagination.
And who knows, maybe you'll even discover your own personal connection to the cosmos, because with Vangelis, the journey is just as important as the destination.
You know, it's funny, all this talk of Mars and space exploration
Yeah.
reminds me of something else you included in your research.
Okay.
That Rosetta trilogy Vangelis did for the European Space Agency back in 2014.
Right.
Wasn't that inspired by their mission to land a probe on a comet?
That's right. It seems space exploration was a recurring source of inspiration for him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just Mythodea and Rosetta.
Right.
Remember, he even has an asteroid named after him.
Really?
Asteroid 6354 Vangelis explores. Talk about an out-of-this-world tribute.
I love that it feels so fitting given how his music seems to reach for the stars. But let's bring it back down to Earth for a minute.
Okay.
And talk about those specific musical elements that might have contributed to that cosmic feel.
Right.
We talked about those weird space noises and the contrasting musical styles, but what else was he doing that was so unique?
Well, one thing that really stands out in Mythodea is his use of what's called microtonality.
Microtonality.
Yeah, it basically means using intervals smaller than a semitone,
Okay.
which are the smallest intervals in Western music.
Right.
This creates a sense of ambiguity of notes that are almost but not quite what you expect.
So it's like he's bending the rules of traditional harmony, creating a sound that's both familiar and strange.
Mm-hmm.
I can see how that would contribute to that otherworldly feeling.
Exactly. And it plays into that primordial quality we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
It's like he's tapping into sounds that predate Western music sounds that evoke ancient rituals or the vastness of the cosmos.
It also makes me think about something we touched on before, the idea that Mythodea might demand a different kind of listening.
Right.
Maybe those microtones, those subtle shifts in harmony, are things you need to really pay attention to in order to fully appreciate.
That's a great insight. It's not background music.
Right.
It's music that invites you to lean in, to actively listen and discover new layers of meaning with each listen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that active engagement that makes the experience so rewarding.
You know, all this talk about microtones and ancient rituals makes me wonder,
Yeah.
do we have any insights into Vangelis's creative process? How did he actually go about composing a piece like Mythodea?
There's a really fascinating anecdote in one of the articles you sent where he talks about how he would spend hours in his studio surrounded by synthesizers and keyboards just experimenting with sounds.
Oh.
He wasn't necessarily looking for melodies or chord progressions. He was more interested in creating textures, atmospheres, soundscapes.
It's almost like he was a sonic sculptor shaping sound rather than writing notes.
Yeah.
And I guess that explains why Mythodea feels so immersive, so much like a world unto itself.
Exactly. It's not just a collection of songs. It's a sonic journey, a tapestry of sound that pulls you in and doesn't let go. And I think that's ultimately why it resonated so deeply with NASA.
Okay.
It's a piece of music that captures the awe and wonder of space exploration, the sense of venturing into the unknown.
And speaking of venturing into the unknown,
Mm-hmm.
let's not forget about those fan accounts and that incredible description of the stage setup at the Temple of Zeus.
Right.
Van Houtert mentions this massive screen behind the orchestra where they projected all sorts of images.
Yes, those visuals were a crucial part of the overall experience. It wasn't just a concert.
Right.
It was a multimedia spectacle.
He mentions images of Greek gods, space scenes, and even symbols representing the concept of alpha to omega. It's like
Yeah.
Vangelis is creating a visual representation of those grand themes we've been discussing, mythology, science, spirituality, the interconnectedness of everything.
Exactly. And those visuals combined with the music, the setting, the atmosphere, it must have been an absolutely overwhelming experience.
It makes you wonder what those fans were thinking and feeling as they sat there under the night sky, with Mars shining overhead, surrounded by the ruins of this ancient temple, listening to this incredible music and watching these stunning visuals unfold before their eyes.
It must have felt like being transported to another dimension, another time, another realm of existence.
And maybe that's the ultimate legacy of Mythodea. It's a piece of music that reminds us of the power of art to transcend boundaries, to connect us to something larger than ourselves, to ignite our imaginations and inspire us to explore the unknown.
So as you listen to Mythodea, keep that sense of wonder alive. Let the music wash over, you let the visuals transport you, and most importantly, let yourself get lost in the journey.
Because with Vangelis, the destination is never as important as the experience itself, and Mythodea is an experience you won't soon forget.